The children's adaptation of the landmark and award-winning initiative, the 1619 Project, called Born on the Water, begins with a universal question, one that we have all asked ourselves at one time or another. Who are you? My teacher gives us an assignment. Who are you, she asks. Trace your roots. Draw a flag that represents your ancestral land. Most of my classmates can count back many generations and learn about countries where their families came from. They draw their flags. But I leave my paper blank. I do not know where I begin, what my story is. Our hero, the little girl at the center of the story, goes home and asks her grandmother who their people are and what their story is. Through that class assignment and the conversation between child and grandmother, Born on the Water deftly examines identity, belonging, origin, and perhaps most importantly, legacy. The 1619 Project, Born on the Water, co-authored by the first ever member of the Velshi Band Book Club, Nikole Hannah-Jones, alongside award-winning author Renee Watson and activist and illustrator Nicholas Smith, is today's Velshi Band Book Club feature. Written in verse, Born on the Water is told to us in small vignettes and quick moments that tell a larger story. The bowels of the White Lion, the Tucker family in Virginia, jazz music, seeds from the homeland. Each poem and lyrical line is written over original painted illustrations that masterfully convey emotion and tell more of the story. The White Lion is shadowy, blue and brown, with fine white detailing. The Tucker family are circular strokes and embrace, a yellow background and a young boy's face with freckles like stars and stripes. Born on the Water does not shy away from the realities of slavery in 1619 America. The cruelty, the pain, the abuse are devastating and hard to read, but they are true. They are part of this story and our story as Americans. Nikole Hannah-Jones, the 1619 Project, has been subject to immense backlash and censorship over its critical examination and reframing of American history. Born on the Water is no different. It's worth noting how carefully and thoroughly appropriate it is for children. It's a story of understanding, of truth, of resilience. The last few pages of Born on the Water are brighter and lighter in both illustration and in verse. They're called, respectively, Resist, Legacy, and Pride. Quote, never forget, you come from a people of great strength, Grandma says. Be proud of our story, your story. The next day I go to school, pull out my red crayon, my blue and my white. I draw the stars and I draw the stripes of the flag of the country that my ancestors built, that my grandma and grandpa built, that I will help build too. And I'm not ashamed. I know what my story is, where I'm from, where I begin. Today's meeting of the Velshi Band Book Club is officially underway. If anybody has like a YouTube or something to tell me how I'm supposed to do this, I'll talk to a judge or something. Today we're examining one of our first ever Velshi Band Book Club features, but through a totally different lens and a totally different mode of storytelling. The 1619 Project's children's adaptation, called The 1619 Project, Born on the Water. I am so fortunate to be joined by Renee Watson, who co-wrote the adaptation with Nikole Hannah-Jones, and Nicholas Smith, the illustrator of Born on the Water. Welcome to both of you. Thank you for being here. This is a very big deal for us because Nikole was the first, that was the impetus for this, right? When we talk about the modern book banning era, while we've been banning books for 500 years, this is the story that started it. So Renee, let me just start with you. I want to start with the author's note that's at the end of the book, in which you say, we especially hope Black American children who may be longing to feel connected to their roots come away empowered by the knowledge that there's no shame in descending from American slavery, and with the understanding that they come from a resilient people who loved, resisted, and preserved. Talk to me about that.
Well, yes, we think it's just so important that Black American children have ownership of this country too, and that they feel proud of their ancestors, and that they realize they don't just come from struggle and pain, but also joy, and also love and brilliance, that these people were also very smart and capable, and that they helped to build our country, and that's something to be proud of, not ashamed of.
Nicholas, it's a really important message in this moment, right? Because for a lot of people, this looks like a moment of existential struggle. And there are a few examples you can go back to, including slavery in America, where you can say, yeah, it was tough and existential for them too. But misery was not the legacy of slavery. You are the legacy of slavery.
Absolutely. I love that this book, it actually can start before the whips and the chains, this starts in the kingdom of Ndongo. It shows my people. This is a dream project for me. Nicole and Renee are like sisters to me now. I got to illustrate my ancestors from Central West Africa and see their resilience and see their fight. And yes, the terrible, the horrors of slavery, but also the resistance, and to see who, what lives came from that, like Frederick Douglass, Shirley Chisholm, so many stories that a lot of young kids in school today should know about, should learn about, right?
Renee, we don't do a ton of verse on the show. We've started to because we think it's really important. And a lot of authors have explained to us that for kids, it's often their entry point into storytelling. But tell me why you chose that.
So poetry lends itself to dealing with very big emotions and topics in bite-sized ways. And how do you tell this history in a picture book and keep it age appropriate, right? I think young people can handle hard conversations. We just need to talk to them in the language they understand. And so we wanted to have these bite-sized kind of vignettes to serve as containers for the emotion and to allow students to see simile and metaphor and personification and all the tools of poetry and emotional language to be able to talk about these really big, heavy emotions and big, heavy things that happen. So poetry felt like the best way to tell such a big, heavy story.
Nicholas, I talk to a lot of authors and illustrators who are surprised by the fact that their book has been banned or challenged or didn't think it was coming. I don't think there's ever been a book published that is more obviously going to be banned and challenged than this particular book, given what it is. How does that inform you as an illustrator and as a collaborator on this? As you're thinking about how you're doing this, are you conscious of the fact that, are you trying to be less provocative, or does it free you up to be more provocative, or is it exactly the same as it would have been if this book isn't going to be banned and challenged?
I don't think it really changes anything. I mean, the story is the story. It needs to be told. And I feel like I have to, illustrate it in the way that it happened. This was a story where, we had to be accurate and tell exactly how these people were stolen from their land, how they were forced into the White Lion, how they made it or didn't make it, across the ocean. And so the sad thing is actually, like, for years, a lot of kids in the South, a lot of kids, and from my home state of Texas, have not been able to experience this book in an educational setting, and it's really sad. And so for me, it's why I believe in educational justice. It's why I write books and illustrate books about the origins of humanity in Africa, things that don't get put in the history books, right? Why I make art about, Ruby Bridges facing racism and, American slavery and the Confederate flag and all these things. And, all of these things, if we can actually talk about them, it will help us as a society, right? But instead they get blocked and banned and they get taken away. But if we can kind of like integrate them back into the educational system, it's only for the betterment of everybody. So,
not only do you get blocked, not only do you get blocked and banned, you get painted as a subversive. You're actually against something, right? I remember when I first interviewed Nicole about the 1619 project. So it was a date I didn't know. I was not familiar with. And I thought, how interesting. You've added a new thing to my brain. Thank you for doing that. Didn't occur to me that someone would say, you're challenging a narrative that I depend on in some fashion, that the 1619 couldn't have been true. These stories couldn't have been true.
Right.
You're not even presenting an alternative part of history here. This is actually just history.
Yes, and filling in the blanks.
You're filling in blanks, yeah.
And also, I think when we're talking about banning books, what we're saying to young people is that you don't have to listen to everybody's story. To ban a book, I think reading is a form of listening. It is a way to take in somebody else's story. And I might have some overlap with that person's story, I might not. So to say we are going to remove these books is to say these people, this group is not worthy to be listened to. And I think that teaches young people to be selective in who they care about and to not think about how do I learn something?
Yeah.
How do I grow? How do I expand my knowledge? And so, yes, I think it's very important that young people have access to a variety of stories that they can identify with, and stories that open them up and make them think and consider a world that they might not have thought about before.
And Nicholas, while people may not think that children's books are the center of the bullseye here, they're fully the center of the bullseye. They're actually where the problem is, because the rest of us can get our books elsewhere. We don't have to, in theory, we can go to libraries and they're not restricted from us, although some libraries do restrict these things. You can buy the book. Children's books are expensive. They're illustrated. Everybody can't afford them. So it's much more insidious to ban and challenge children's books, particularly the ones that deal with these facts of history.
Right. I mean, I actually call them picture books. I feel like they're for everybody.
I'll take that.
These kids, it's like Renee said, the kids get it. They understand these things, right? And so I just think it's imperative for every school, every neighborhood to have books like this, at a place where kids can understand it, kids can get it. We can all gather around and talk about, what are these stories and how do they affect our daily lives?
This idea of this little girl taking her paper and drawing the American flag.
Yes.
I can't imagine why someone would be offended by that, right? Isn't that
it's very
the right
interesting
outcome?
to think about the things that people are angry about in this book, is that a lot of the anger has come from a young Black girl having pride in being an American, which is very interesting, right? So, I want to always challenge people to think about their real reasons for wanting to ban, and what are they really upset about?
Yeah.
And what are you saying, again, to young people who are Black American? And also, what are you saying to the kids who are not, by saying you should not read this story about them over there? I think it's also important to think about, how can we get young people to have a conversation with the book? Ask your questions. Where are you from? What stories do you want to tell? What matters to you about what's been passed down generation after generation? Not just the struggle, but also what makes you proud? What makes you want to stand up and say, yeah, this is my family name, and this is our food, and this is what we listen to on the radio and in my mom's car. So it's so interesting to me to want to also ban joy. And to ban Black joy. The book ends in this moment of celebration of all the accomplishments that we've given to this country and done for this country. So to not want to talk about that is very telling about the way you want us to feel about ourselves.
It's very telling.
Being here.
Thank you to both of you, to the latest members of the Velshi Band Book Club, Renee Watson and Nicholas Smith, the author and illustrator of the 1619 Project, Born on the Water.